Hi everyone, in today's video we're going to be discussing rotations. A rotation is a transformation that turns a figure about a fixed point called the center of rotation. Before we get into specific rotations, I want to talk about the unit circle and the labeling of our quadrants. So in our upper right hand quadrant, we have quadrant 1. Then quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. Also, labeling the degrees is also important. We're always going to start in the upper right hand, quadrant 1, 90 degrees, then 180 degrees, 270, and back to the beginning, 0 or 360 degrees. We are going in a counterclockwise motion. The direction of our rotations is important to address. If we have a positive degree of rotation, we're going counterclockwise, the opposite of a clock. If it's a negative degree of rotation, we're going clockwise, the same direction as a clock. Let's look at the first example. First, we have a rotation of 90 degrees counterclockwise, which is the same as a rotation of negative 270 degrees clockwise. So let's take a look at the diagram. We have triangle ABC, which is our pre-image. I'm going to put a 1. And then our image, triangle A prime, B prime, C prime. Remember, the primes come second. So we're in quadrant 1 to begin with. I'm going to label all my quadrants. So if I'm in quadrant 1 and I've turned and now I'm in quadrant 2, that means it's a rotation of 90 degrees. We've only moved one quadrant. To look at the points, we go from x comma y to negative y comma x. We have rotated 90 degrees counterclockwise. But it is also the same as rotating negative 270 degrees clockwise. So if I'm in quadrant 1, I have traveled 1, 2, 3 quadrants clockwise. And by traveling 3 quadrants, that's 270 degrees, but it has to be negative because we're going clockwise. Counterclockwise is positive, clockwise is negative. Next, we have rotation of 180 degrees. Again, I'm going to label all of my quadrants. So I'm going to start with my pre-image. Triangle ABC is 1, and triangle A prime, B prime, C prime is 2. So let's take a look. I am traveling from quadrant 1 to quadrant 3. I have moved over 2 quadrants. Therefore, I've rotated 180 degrees. So when I start in quadrant 1 and I end up in quadrant 3, it's a rotation of 180 degrees. If we take a look at the coordinates, x comma y, they become negative. Negative x comma negative y. If I had started in quadrant 2, for example, and if I rotated 180 degrees, I would end up in quadrant 4. Rotating 180 degrees counterclockwise and clockwise is the same. Next, I have a rotation of 270 degrees. Again, I'm going to label all my quadrants. My image and my pre-image. So my pre-image is first. A, B, C, D, and then my image of A prime, B prime, C prime, D prime. I'm going from quadrant 1 to quadrant 4, which means I have gone 3 different quadrants. I've moved 3 different quadrants, therefore I rotated 270 degrees counterclockwise, which is the same as rotating negative 90 degrees clockwise. That means only moving 1 quadrant in the clockwise direction. If we look at the coordinates, we have x comma y. That turns into y comma negative x. So again, rotation of 270 degrees counterclockwise rotates the pre-image 3 quadrants. It's the same as rotating negative 90 degrees, which rotates the pre-image to the image 1 quadrant in a clockwise direction. Lastly, a rotation is a rigid motion. Corresponding sides have the same length, and corresponding angles have the same measure. So a rotation is a rigid motion because it preserves both distance, side length, and angle measure.